Now, I want to comment on what Harris has said, talking about a broken immigration system. What do you think of that in light that she was kind of responsible of this subject in the last 4 years?
Thank you, Karim, for having me. Of course, as we all know, Vice President Harris had a single responsibility as the Vice President of the United States for the past 3.5 years or more, and that was border security. The entire file of the border was delegated to Mrs. Harris by President Biden. And of course, admittedly, and even she admitted, she did not succeed in resolving the border crisis, or what the Republicans call the border crisis, or the illegal immigration problem, or the irregular immigration problem. And she blamed that, along with the Democrats, on the intransigence of the Republicans in Congress, saying that they were not cooperative in coming up with a unified border plan, border security plan, or legislation to deal with the problem. So I think that's how she is trying to justify it now, nominee Kamala Harris, the Democratic the presidential nominee, is doing the same talking points. And she is promising to resolve the border issue. However, it's not clear how she's planning to resolve that, to be honest, because the Democrats have always been accused of being very soft on illegal immigration, and they have been accused by Trump and by the Republicans that they have not taken enough measures to combat illegal immigration and resolve the border problem. However, it's worth mentioning that Barack Obama, President Obama, who was the pioneer Democratic administration from 2008 to 2016, carried out one of the mass deportations in U.S. history, deporting a few million, about 2 or 3 million illegal immigrants from the United States. And ironically, President Trump spent 4 years in office, and even though he was very big in his speech and his words about combating illegal immigration, however, he never took any measures as big as such.
Okay, can we shed light on how the candidate's stances on foreign policy are resonating with voters this year? Because it could actually change or impact the result and the voting, and that is definitely an opposite situation to what foreign policy presented for voters in previous elections.
Well, we can say that foreign policy in U.S. elections for most of U.S. history were never a major determining factor in the election, including this one, even though there are very, very ongoing crises in the world that the United States is directly or indirectly involved in, like the crisis in the Middle East, or the crisis in Ukraine, for example, or the tensions with China in the Straits of Taiwan. However, these might influence the election some way or the other. However, they will not be a determining factor that will determine the winning of one side or the other, whether the Democrats or the Republicans, Trump or Harris. However, the United States, or the people of the United States, most of them are now suffering from fatigue from the excessive military and security involvement of the country in foreign conflicts. For example, the United States spent tens of billions of dollars on supporting Ukraine, for example, over the past 2.5 years, for the better part of it. And in basically a war by proxy against Russia. Many Americans actually are questioning, both on the left and on the right, are questioning why our tens and even hundreds of billions of dollars are being spent on foreign policy, or what they call foreign adventures, and at the same time, about 500,000 Americans are living on food stamps. There are hundreds of thousands of homeless people in major American cities. So this is how foreign policy factors into the domestic politics. However, the crisis in the Middle East, for example, and the Israeli onslaught, the Israeli war of aggression against Gaza and Lebanon, even though it caused some sort of mayhem in some segments or some circles in the Democratic Party, it will not be, unfortunately, a major determinant of of the election because the United States is not directly involved in this war.
Where we have been seeing in the past few seconds on Qnews right now some poll results that or some predictions perhaps in some of these states. We've been seeing in North Carolina perhaps Harris could be actually gaining on Donald Trump, which could be a surprise for this state. It's definitely a swing state. However, if Harris wins, it could be some sort of a shock for Donald Trump. Given that we are expecting surprises, perhaps, what are the paths of these surprises, do you think?
I think that, as you just said, if Kamala Harris manages to win North Carolina, that would be an upset because North Carolina was the only swing state Trump managed to win in the 2020 election. All the other 6 swing states went to Biden, as opposed to all the 7 swing states, Trump winning them in 2016 against Hillary Clinton. So if he loses North Carolina, that would be a very dangerous indicator for Mr. Trump that might signify that he might actually definitively lose this election. If this actually happens, because if he did not manage to secure the only swing state he secured in 2020, then that puts into question whether he can secure some of the other 6 swing states, whether, I don't know, Michigan or Wisconsin or Georgia, where there's a big amount of support for him over there. So that would be an offset. But of course, it's way too early to judge by the exit polls what the actual results are, because it's still a very young night. There's still a lot of vote counting that will go on. The early voting and the voting by mail, for that to be gathered and counted, it will take a substantial amount of time. Many sources are saying that you might not even see a final result for the election by the night, and that might appear in a few days.
Right.
So I think it's a long way ahead of us. However, if Trump actually loses North Carolina, that would be a very, very negative.
Just to be clear, for everyone who's watching us, we're just talking about polls here. We're still not seeing any official numbers from states. We're waiting on the preliminary numbers from states, of course, and we will be, of course, monitoring this in the next few hours. However, if we're talking about North Carolina, we have to talk about the other swing states. Could Trump flip any of the blue wall states? Pennsylvania, one of the most important states, I think it's the most important state, Michigan and Wisconsin.
Of course, that's a very good question, Karim, because actually he needs to work on flipping some of these states, at least if he wants to win this election, unless he plans on flipping actual blue states, which is highly unlikely in such a polarized atmosphere. So he has to. In Pennsylvania, for example, he has been, both Kamala and Donald Trump have been campaigning heavily and excessively. Campaigned in the last few days, in the final days of the campaign in Pennsylvania, and for good reason, because Pennsylvania has been a very strong swing state and has a significant amount of electoral votes. The same goes, for example, for Michigan, where first time we see Trump trying to appeal to the Arab American community in the United States. Why? Because Michigan has about from 100 to 150,000 voters of Arab Americans, for example, the Arab American community. And he was so eager to secure the support of some of the local imams and religious figures, as we have seen in one of his campaign rallies in Michigan. So that because this swing vote, he knows that the Arab American community in the United States, that numbers approximately about 3.5 to 4 million American citizens, those people have been completely disenfranchised by the Biden administration's dealing with.
Unfortunately, I'm running out of time. I'm running out But I need to ask you this one final question, because there has been security threats perhaps for these elections right now. Or that's based on the news that's coming out of the US media, and even the FBI has issued warnings. What would you say are the biggest challenges facing national security agencies in ensuring the integrity of this election, even if it's misinformation or perhaps meddling?
I think the problem is security, because political violence has become an actual trend in the United States over the past few years, unfortunately, starting with the BLM protest and the storming of the Capitol in 2020, after 2021, after the elections, and of course the recent assassination attempts on Trump. So actually, there is an actual chance that some segments, either on the left or on the right, accept the results might lead to violence. That's why we see enforcement officials and National Guard taking extreme precautions in many of the states. As in the case of the security of the electoral process itself, in terms of meddling, we have seen accusations. We have seen accusations in the previous elections and this election of Russian meddling, of Chinese meddling, and of Iranian meddling. However, there is no such standard that any of these supposed foreign meddling in these elections will actually be detrimental to either side of the either candidates, to be honest. And it has not been proven to be that. And actually, this threat of meddling in the election, intervention in the election from foreign powers, is exaggerated by the Democrats, and to an extent as well by the Republicans when it comes to Iran, in order to just garner votes and polarize the political situation even further.
Well, thank you very much. That was our international relations specialist, Mr. Mohammed Osman. Thank you for joining us on Q News.